Yeah, let's go through basically the four steps that I go through. Just make sure your hand's set up perfectly. So thumb position here is going to be in the same spot as where we put our first finger down on the instrument. Very important to start off with a thumb. Next step would be to make sure that your hand is high enough, as I mentioned. So the way that I teach it is that we don't want our hand to be touching the fingerboard here. We want it to be touching more here. So that's a huge difference in our ability to be high enough. Ultimately, just have it to where our fingers can just be placed down very lightly on the fingerboard without having to reach and sort of have a tense hand to find the notes. Got some audio things here, Randy. Make sure you're managing the audio. So yeah, that's step 2 is making sure the hand is high enough. Step 3 is making sure that the hand is back by the nut. The nut is the elevation, spot right back here that's a little bit higher that the strings rest on. So our thumb is here and our hand is back. And the importance for that is that we want to be able to squeeze our fingers back to hit flats without actually having to move the hand to find low ones on the instrument. Because when we have to do that, our hand can also get tense for vibrato. So make sure that your hand is here and not here. Playing the violin. Hey Lisa, how you doing? Thanks for posting your comment. So hand back. So thumb, hand high, hand back. And then step 4 is basically just turning the hand about an inch away from the fingerboard. So you're about that far away. And if we're in this position, basically what can happen is you can keep your hand very, very flexible, very, very loose, because all we have to do is just let our fingers fall down to find notes. So if our hand is too low, we're kind of going in and out to find notes. Let's say we have a second finger on the E string, and then all of a sudden we have a fourth finger on the G string. We have to make this huge adjustment with the hand, which is going to make it hard to do vibrato. So being high enough is huge. And I find it often that students that are playing on the E string, actually, what they do is they kind of dip their hand down here to play on the E string, and then they kind of come back when they have notes on the other strings. So they're kind of making this movement back and forth with their hands. And what you actually should be doing is squeezing your fingers back to find notes and not actually moving the hand to kind of come in and out. Raise your hand if that makes sense. I want to see if you guys are able to do the raise hand feature. Hey, all right, James, Randy, thanks for raising your hands. And I see that we have a lot of new people that are popping in. I'm going to go ahead and approve them and let them be panelists. If you're a panelist, you can actually be on video and be on the audio. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of transfer over some of you guys. Hey, Colin. Hey, Seuss, how you doing? Hey, Jill. Good to see you. So yeah, please post in the comment area any questions you have. I'll try my best. Actually, let me rephrase that. If you can try to find the Q&A feature. Oh yeah, actually, Jill, you told me yesterday that does not work if you're a panelist. So why don't we try that? Why don't we try the comments? I'll try to pay attention to that. And also raise your hand if you want to be on video and ask a question. So let's do it that way. Right now,
I don't want to do that.
Changing you guys over to the panelist function here. Hey, Jesus, just make sure you manage your audio, make sure you're muted. There we go. Looks like we got 27 of us here. Awesome. Very, very good. All right, so I see some of you guys have your hands raised. You can put your hands down if you do not want to be called on, as I will call on you now to say hello and let us know where you're from and how long you've been playing, and also if you have a question about the violin. So have your hands down if you do not want to be called on. Hey, Jeff, how you doing? Jeff, how you doing? You want to be on video or say anything? I have a question.
Oh, can you hear me?
I sure can. How you doing?
Hey, doing great. I was just trying to figure this thing out, a little slow.
No problem. It takes a little bit, but yeah. Feel free to re-raise your hand if you have a question or anything like that.
Sounds great. I'll be following along.
Sounds good. Looks like who else we got here? Looks like you guys are shy today. No problem. So let me keep kind of talking about the vibrato, and I'll try to pay as much attention as I can to the chat area. as that's a good spot for you guys to post a comment or talk to others here in the call, in the class. All right, so we have the 4 steps that I just went over as far as vibrato. So once your hand is in that optimal position, then we can be as relaxed as possible when we're placing fingers down. So that's huge for getting a good vibrato. The next thing I want to talk about is finger placement. So a lot of you guys that play the violin, you press way too hard into the fingerboard. So what that does is it makes the hand tense where you can't get that nice, smooth, relaxed vibrato. What I want you to focus on is right before the nail is the hardest part of the skin. That's where you can press down the lightest to still get the proper pressure. If you guys want to grab your instruments, I want you guys, you don't have to have the bow. I want you to go ahead and just try to put a 3rd finger down on the A string and focus on being as close as you can to not using the nail, and then try to get a really minimal pressure down on the string to where you still get this sound. See how the string rings? But right now I'm pressing down very, very lightly. Okay, so now try this, because a lot of you guys are over pressing and you might think that you're not pressing a lot, but you are. Try to lessen the pressure and see if you still get this ring sound. So right now I'm trying to kind of press less, but still get that. So obviously when you get this, the dead sound, then you're not pressing enough. But a lot of you guys just are over pressing, like that. So by having good finger contact, and this doesn't just apply to when you're doing vibrato, it applies when you're playing any note on the violin. If you're in that habit, you're able to have that relaxed, flexible hand that it takes to really be able to shake for vibrato. Funny thing, I've actually had a lot of students over the years that are, you know, kind of stronger people. For example, like I had a UPS driver that used to come for lesson, and he had this death grip on the violin that just caused him to have a unideal sound. And you know, we'd always have to work on this. We'd always have to work on finger contact and him not overpressing, because ultimately, if you overpress here, you're also most likely tense here, and then you're going to get a really scratchy, bumpy, unpleasant sound on the violin. So finger contact is huge. It's going to help a lot of other parts of your playing. Raise your hand if that makes sense. If you guys are still here paying attention, we got about 30 of us here. Awesome. Very good crowd. I see a lot of you guys are getting it. Very good. Transferring a few of you guys that are coming in a little bit later to panelist Abel. And go ahead and have your hands raised if you want to be called on to introduce yourselves and say hello or ask a question. So I'm going to go ahead and look at that right now, see if there's anybody that might have some questions. Let's put Valerie on. How you doing, Valerie?
Doing fine.
All right. How's that vibrato going?
The light touch is what did it.
Oh, you're trying it right now and it's working?
Yes.
Really?
Very nice. Very nice.
Great. I'm glad that helped you. If I only help even one student today, that's a win. So congratulations. Isn't it nice to be able to move it a little bit more with that lighter pressure?
Oh my gosh, yes. What a difference.
Good.
I have been trying to squeeze the heck out of the neck. So with the light pressure, it makes it easy.
It really does. It's all about that management of tension. I'm glad that just clicked for you.
Cool. I'm excited.
Awesome. Do you have any questions on top of that, or just?
No, I had my hand raised and my dog was going out the front window, so I had to go rescue her.
No problem. Well, glad to hear from you, and really glad to hear about the success.
Cool.
Awesome. All right. So actually, I'd love to hear if you guys raise your hand if that tip is helping, if you guys are kind of trying to apply these concepts right now and you can kind of tell a difference with that minimal pressure. Are you guys noticing that? Cool. Jill raised your hand. Awesome. See Allison as well. Cool. Yeah. So that's definitely really important. Minimal pressure. And, you know, also what I started talking about, just having the hand in the perfect position, because what happens is when we have different combinations of notes, doesn't really matter how light you press, it's still, your hand is tense, having to kind of reach back and forth to find the note. So it's just as important to have that hand in the position where we're just letting fingers fall down. And what I do with my students actually that struggle with this concept is I'll actually take my hand and grab their hand right here at this point, because everything from here on down, you should never have to move on the violin unless you're shifting. So when they're playing in first position, I'll grab their hand right here and then see if they're able to do what I'm talking about as far as squeezing back and finding every note. So if they're doing that, then that's a really good sign. And yeah, normally I actually have them grab my hand so I can show them that it's possible. Because yeah, if you guys watch me play a little bit and watch how I'm not having to move anything here on down. Raise your hand if that makes sense, how the hand should be very still to find notes. And ultimately that's helping us keep the hand flexible for vibrato. So raise your hands if that makes sense. See? Cool. Lisa, glad to see you. Thanks for being here. Mitch, thanks for being here. Glad that makes sense. Sal as well, thank you. Darlene, awesome. Emily. Cool, so a lot of you guys just really need help on that concept. And you know, having that left hand in that perfect position is key to your success. So my recommendation, if you guys have not really worked a lot on left hand fundamentals, is to segment. So basically don't use the bow, just work on pizzicato, which is basically plucking the string, and just work on your left hand fundamentals. So you know, take a song that you're working on or even a scale and just watch to see and make sure that you're not moving the hand a lot, make sure that you're high enough. Work on your finger pressure. Make sure your hand is back and not reaching forward. Make sure that your hand is high enough. All these things you can kind of focus in on for a few minutes during the first part of your practice session. Raise your hand if that makes sense. Segmentation, focusing on some of the fundamentals. Good. Awesome. So yeah, I highly recommend that. So you can take any song that you're working on, just segment. So like, for example, if I'm, you know, playing a song like this. If you guys know that song, but that's Jesus, Joy of Man's Desiring. And yeah, during that song, I mean, I'm doing a lot of string crossings, and a lot of you guys might be dipping to find those string crossings. So instead of ba 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 bum 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 bum, here it's ba ba bum ba 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 bum 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 bum. See that? Raise your hand if that makes sense. How I'm coming in and out to find notes instead of squeezing. Squeezing, squeezing. So yeah, when I come out, I'm hurting my intonation. And I'm hurting my ability to keep a relaxed hand for vibrato. Okay? Hope that makes sense. Thank you guys for raising your hands. This is great. Awesome to see participation in that way. Cool. So yeah, having a good left hand position, we talked about that. We talked about good finger contact. We talked about segmentation, working on these concepts, you know, in a focused way. The next thing I kind of want to talk about is the right hand. So a lot of you guys don't realize how important it is to have a good right hand, bow hand, to be able to do vibrato properly. So basically, I'll explain it this way. So when you're playing the violin, you know, it's very likely, especially if you're just starting, that you're grabbing the bow too hard. As you're transitioning the bow from one direction to another, instead of using the index finger to transition, you're using the hand to transition. Raise your hand if that makes sense. You're using the hand to bring it back instead of the index to bring it back. Good. Glad that makes sense. Okay, when you guys are not using the index and using the hand, what happens is your hand is getting tense. To do that, okay? And our hands tend to work together. So when our hand is tense here, then our other hand also gets tense. So as you're bringing the bow back with the hand, your other hand is doing the same thing in a way. It's getting tense as well. And then it's hard to actually move the vibrato, the hand, because our hands are doing similar. So a lot of you guys improving on your vibrato is having better bow transitions. So what I mean by that is as you're coming back the other direction, you're using the index to kind of manage that transition. You're not stiffening your fingers to bring it back. You're not, your thumb isn't tense and kind of forcing the bow back and forth. How do you guys have a really stiff thumb? That's one of the biggest bad habits with playing the violin. Your thumb is sort of guiding the bow. Raise your hand if that makes sense. The thumb guiding the bow. Okay, so when your thumb is guiding the bow, then you're getting tense here and then also tense here. So what we have to do is we have to manage all this. We have to make sure we're using the index only to transition the bow. And then with having minimal movement in the right hand, then we're able to keep the left hand relaxed. Okay, so if I'm only doing this here, then I'm able to do this here. Raise your hand if that makes sense. So I think, like Val, you were talking about kind of breaking through and understanding this more than before. I think what happened with you is that you're minimizing what you're doing in your hands by having less finger contact, and that's allowing you to move the hand. So I encourage you, Val, and anybody else that's here, to have also minimal contact and movement in the right hand. Because yeah, ultimately when you're playing the violin, literally you're only doing this, and then obviously this. So this is kind of like what you're doing often right here. Awesome. All right, so let me kind of just go through and see if there's any questions. I'm gonna call on you if you have your hand raised. Anybody with their hands raised, feel free to participate, guys. I won't bite, I won't be critical, and I would love to hear from you. So there you go. Jeff, how you doing?
Hey, Mike, could you go back, if we could back up to your left hand again? The way you were positioning the hand, the knuckles appeared to me, the knuckles at the interface of your fingers and hand, your big knuckles, appear to be somewhat parallel to the fingerboard. And when I hold mine, they seem to be more to 45. I'm having trouble getting that hand squared back to the fingerboard.
Okay, so yeah, you're talking about the knuckles. The knuckles should not be at all this way. I don't know if that's what you're saying, Jeff. They should actually be angled back based on those 4 steps, the steps of the thumb, the hand back, the hand high, and the turn. That kind of sets your knuckles to point in this direction. So what we don't want to do is we don't want to be in this direction, which is actually more what a guitar player does. So raise your hand if you guys play guitar. Any guitar players here? Lisa? Yeah, so a lot of guitar players struggle on the violin because it's much different in how they have their knuckles set up. So in the case of a guitar player, they're set up more like this, and a violin player should be set up more like this. But yeah, I don't know if that helps, Jeff.
Yes, it does. That pretty well explains my problem there.
Okay, good.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, so just those 4 steps, and a lot of you guys are just overdoing things and doing too much movement, because what happens is okay, let's say we set up our hand in the proper position like this. Let's say we have a 3rd finger on the A string, and all of a sudden we have a C natural on the A string, which is 2nd finger low. What you guys are doing is you're over pressing here on that 2nd finger, and then you're changing your finger angles. Raise your hand if that makes sense. You're going from here then to there. See that? That's my phone. A lot of that change in your hand going from here to here is because you're over pressing into the fingerboard. Okay, so if you're going from that 3rd finger and all of a sudden you're really nervous about that low 2 and you really press hard with that low 2, naturally, because the 2 is here, it's kind of changes your hand position. So instead, if you were a lot more relaxed with that low 2 placement, see how minimal it is and how it's not changing my angles. Raise your hand if that makes sense. My angles are staying back when I'm doing various combinations of notes. So here I have a 4th finger, and let's say a 4th finger is followed by a low 1 on the A string, a B flat. A lot of you guys would play a 4, and then here's the low 1. You guys would do this. See that? Find that low 1. Okay, and part of that is that you guys don't have your hand back enough where you can just squeeze like that. You guys for raising your hands, appreciate that. So when your hand is not back, you're sort of forced to change your angle because you're not in the proper position. So those 4 steps are key for so many different reasons. So you have the thumb, the hand back to be able to reach those low 1s, the hand high to be able to reach the 4s, and then the hand turned about an inch away so that our angles are set up properly. Raise your hand if that makes sense. Cool. All you guys are getting it. Awesome. So yeah, different combinations. So what I recommend is segmentation again. So take some of your pieces that are sort of a struggle, that maybe have some 4th fingers, that maybe have some low 1s, some pieces in the key of F or key of B flat, and just watch your left hand and see what it's doing. Another thing you can do is record yourself or watch yourself in the mirror, kind of watch to see from this view what your hand is doing in the piece. So if you're noticing as you're doing that low 1 and you're doing this, or when you're doing the 4, you're doing that, you're kind of changing the hand. That will tell you that you're making it harder on yourself to do vibrato because your hand is getting tense. So one really good test that I like to give students is for them to play a low 1st finger on the E string, an F natural, and then also as that finger is down, to also do a 4th finger on the G string. So these 2 fingers are down. This ensures that my hand is high enough, and also ensures that my angles are set up properly and wouldn't have to come in and out to find the note. So low 1 on the E string, F natural, 4th finger on the G, D. My hand is in the optimal position right now. So you guys can try that. Raise your hand if that makes sense. Hey Connie, how you doing? Thanks for joining us. Allison said, ensures a sore wrist for me. So yeah, technically if we do all these things, it should actually make your violin playing easier and more relaxed, and you'll be able to practice longer. Anybody that has sort of pain while playing the violin in any capacity is not quite doing things right, unless you have some sort of, physical challenge like arthritis or something like that. But if you're just a normal person with not some hand challenges, disabilities, and you ever get sort of fatigue, there definitely is too much going on, because like I said, it's minimal here, and then it's minimal here as well with just the index. So, I mean, could you do this for an hour straight? Probably, right? But could you do this for an hour straight? Probably not. But this, you can. And that's what we're trying to get you guys to do. So I hope that makes sense. All right, let me take some questions. Looks like Joanne raised her hand. Joanne, how you doing? I'm unmuting you now. Joanne, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
Great. Tell us where you're from and how long you've been playing.
Well, I'm in Blue Mountain, Ontario, Canada. And I guess I've been playing for like, a year to 2 years. I played as a child in grades 6, let's see, was it 4, 5, 6, and 7? And yeah, so I'm just getting back into it again. I'm finding I had to learn how to read music all over again, so it's been quite a challenge. but I'm glad I picked it up again, and working with some old violins that I inherited. So I got them refurbished, and took them to a luthier, and got them all fixed up, and I just have to fix myself up now.
Awesome. So what would you say is your biggest struggle with vibrato, or have you not quite learned it yet?
Definitely the hand. I feel like I have a short baby finger. And I think that's part of the struggle. I don't have long fingers, so I know my baby finger is shorter than normal. So it's trying to reach that fourth, reach the fourth, I guess. That I'm having the most difficulty, but I don't.
Whoops. Whoops. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Yeah, okay. Just shut me up anytime.
No, I was not trying to. Go ahead. Keep going.
So yeah, just I know with time and with practice, I can get those fingers to do what I want them to do. But it's just getting them back into shape, I guess.
Yeah, and when you mentioned the
Stretch.
pinky finger and stuff like that, there actually are a select amount of students that I've gotten to know over the years that do have sort of a short finger, a short pinky. But I would say about half of the time, students that think that they have sort of a short pinky that would really make it challenging, they sort of have a little bit of a short pinky and not as bad as they think. So there are definitely situations where it can be too short, to where you have to literally put your hand in like the perfect position to really be able to reach. So it kind of depends. I would say that if your pinky is sort of like here, instead of here, then you're sort of, challenging position. Is that you?
It's shorter than that.
Oh, okay.
Yep. It's about just above the main knuckle on the third finger there.
Okay. Yeah. So in that sort of scenario, it really can be challenging. I've had 2 or 3 students that I've taught over the years that it literally was just continuing to put that hand in the perfect position. I never encouraged them to do open strings. They probably do it on their own, without telling me. But I always try to just get to where their hand is as flexible as possible, because a lot of it is flexibility this way. So if you have
like
maximum,
the Spock thing, like
what's
Spock.
that?
The Spock beat, Spock. Star Wars, not Star Wars, Star Trek.
Yeah.
The Spock, that's the So I have noticed since I have picked up playing again that there is some more flexibility in the fingers, but I just need more.
Mm-hmm.
And it's trying not to be so tight on the string, on the neck.
Yep. Yeah, and it really, those tips I was giving you guys, with finger placement, if we're over pressing, then it's really hard, to get your fingers to move this way.
Right. Yeah, so less gripping and more freedom.
Yep. So for you, it's even that much more important. But really, for any violin player, I find it to be, a breakthrough, like what Valerie was experiencing. If you guys really work on that minimal pressure, you're going to have a lot easier time with vibrato. So.
Okay. Good.
Awesome. Thanks for commenting. Appreciate it.
Anytime. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else have any questions? You guys are chatting away in the chat box. Feel free to raise your hand if you guys would like to be called on and have some question. Sal says no raise hand feature here, Mike. That's interesting. Sorry, Sal. Not sure why that is. I'm noticing mostly everybody's able to raise the hands, just not wanting to come on video. James, go ahead.
Yeah, for you can't find the raise hand in the bottom middle participants. Click on that, and the right hand screen will split. Top will be participants, bottom will be the chat window. Yeah, Michael, I don't have any other questions other than thank you very much for coming back. This is the last thing you talked about before you left back in October, November, and I was only 3 months starting then, and my left hand, that position truly helped me. So I thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
I'm so glad to see you back.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Oh, by the way, I'm from northern New Jersey, USA.
Jersey. I don't hear the Jersey accent.
What?
There we go. Well, thank you so much. I'm glad that the left-hand stuff was a breakthrough for you. It looks like it's potentially going to change a lot of you guys' playing. So glad that you affirmed that, James. Appreciate it. Very cool. Connie, how you doing? Let me unmute you. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Sure can.
All right. I have a question. I'm guilty of too much pressure. I noticed that my strings, I just had really good strings placed on my violin. I noticed a major difference in the tone. The E string is not as high as the other strings. And I think that was one of my problems with the violin. I seem to do really well, not too much pressure on the E string, but the other strings, I'm wondering if my bridge, I may have to have the strings lowered. That would seem to keep me from having so much pressure on those strings. What do you think about that? Is it just my imagination, or is that factual?
A great question. Yeah, so basically what you're talking about, Connie, is string action. And string action is very important to make sure you have proper, because yeah, if strings are too high, it does force you to have to press down harder into the fingerboard. So you definitely want the string action to be level, even all the way across the strings. If you find that one string is a lot lower in the action and the height off the fingerboard than the others, then that's an adjustment that can be made with the bridge. You're definitely going to want to maybe bring it into a shop to kind of adjust the action on the bridge.
All right.
So yeah, and you know, just to give you guys a little insight too, you know, some people prefer sort of a higher action, which means that the strings are generally higher off the fingerboard. That would typically be like male students, you know, male students with you know, kind of a, you know, a lot of grip in general, you know, harder hands. Somebody that's like a female with kind of less of general hand pressure, you know, they'd be benefited by having the string action just a little bit lower. So yeah, I encourage you guys to sort of maybe get your instrument looked at, bring it to a shop, and then ask them if they can lower the action. Yeah, some of you guys just might be used to playing with the action being too high, and it would really benefit you if you could have it lowered so that you can press down lighter. So that's something to pay attention to. A lot of like beginner violins that are cheap, a lot of times the bridges are not really cut very well, where they're a lot higher than they should be. And when that's the case, the action's very high, and you might have just been learning on an instrument that's just way too high as far as the action, and that makes it harder to do vibrato and other things. So maybe that's brought some awareness to you guys, and yeah, always good to bring a violin in to kind of get checked up and looked at.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thanks for commenting, and let me know if you have any other questions.
I sure will.
Appreciate it. All right, Valerie, I see you have a question. Go ahead. Maybe not. You just put your hand down. Okay, no problem. All right, so yeah, I've talked about left hand setup. I've talked about finger pressure. I've talked about the right hand. Now let's actually get into the moving of the hand and sort of how to start practicing your vibrato. So what I recommend is sort of when you have that optimal hand position and you have good right hand fundamentals, the way that I teach it is that, you know, I want you guys to put your finger down and focus in on this part of your hand right here, okay? And what I want you guys to do is I want you guys to move the hand back and forth vertically and never opening up the hand this way when you're starting to move the vibrato. Actually move the hand to get the vibrato. A lot of you guys are over pressing, and as you move, the hand is opening up. Raise your hand if you think that's you, if your hand is opening up as you're doing vibrato. Okay, this is a bad habit, and it implies that you are over pressing into the fingerboard. Okay, because when we are putting the finger down, we want this part of the hand to come this way. Always, okay? So if you're pressing down minimally, it's a lot easier to get that to happen properly. And just notice how compact my motion is. I'm not doing some crazy motion. I'm not having to grab hard to force a motion. I'm just minimal pressure and compact motion. Raise your hand if that makes sense. Okay. Eventually, ultimately, you get the vibrato to move fast. It's the same concept, but faster. Like this. Minimal pressure and more compact. And it's very important to have a consistent vibrato where, you know, you're moving the same way every time. Let me go into the two different types of vibratos and the third that's incorrect. So there's two correct vibratos. There's a forearm vibrato and there's a wrist vibrato. Both of them, I would encourage the same exact thing, the hand coming directly at you. So for a wrist vibrato, it would be like this. For a forearm vibrato, it would be like this. Wrist, forearm. Wrist, or this part of the hand coming directly at you in both situations. So if you're doing a wrist vibrato and you're doing this, I would not do that. What you're doing with that is you're making it harder to keep your finger angles proper, and you're ultimately tensing up your hand, like we talked about earlier. So whichever one you choose, it needs to have the same concept, hand coming directly at you. And actually, I find that a forearm vibrato is much better to learn at first because it's a lot easier to keep consistent. The analogy I give, and those of you guys that have been following me for a while, you know this analogy. If you guys were to play mini golf, okay, raise your hand if you guys have played mini golf in your life, or golf in general. So, you know, what you wouldn't do when you play mini golf is you wouldn't grab the club, the club's down here. You wouldn't grab it down here and try to putt, right? Bend over like this and try to putt. You would stand up straight and you would have a very simple motion to putt. Okay? Same concept with your forearm. You wouldn't so much try to master it this way because it's harder to be consistent. You would try to master it this way. Raise your hand if that makes sense. It's easier to master this movement, in my opinion, than this. That's the way I always teach it. Now, on the other hand, there are lots of students out there and professionals, many professionals even, that do a awesome wrist vibrato. They do it consistently. They have no problem with it. They do it better than anybody. So it's not incorrect at all to do it this way. But if you're just starting, I find it to be harder to learn it this way than to learn it this way. Hope that makes sense. Okay, so basically we have our finger down into the fingerboard. We're focusing on this part of the hand coming directly at us. Okay, so we're very small here. We're very small, compact here. Maybe put a mark on your hand right here to make sure it's coming vertically, not horizontally. Oh, we're getting some audio. Randy, sorry, sure you're muted. So we're doing all these things proper. And then really what we're trying to do is we're practicing maybe one note at a time with minimal pressure and just moving the finger back and forth consistently. And then, you know, maybe segmenting it with plucking, but then eventually doing it with the bow. And what I recommend when you're first starting is to do, say, 4 waves per bow, per down bow, and 4 waves per bow in the up bow. What I mean by a wave is basically a change in the pitch. So going from D to C sharp, that's one wave, back to D is another wave. So this would be 4 waves. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay? So what I want you to do is I want you to replicate that sound, let's say on a third finger on the D string. So it's basically going to be ba 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 bum. Raise your hand if that makes sense. 8. Okay? So in the case of the down up bow, it could be 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 in the up bow. So this would be how I would start doing it. Like that. Now, what's going to be challenging and tricky is if you're not using the index finger, when you do and you're not bringing the bow back with the index, remember we talked about how the right hand can tense things up. Okay, so when you're bringing the bow back, you're doing it here, and here you are trying to be relaxed here, and you're tense. Raise your hand if that makes sense. So that's what potentially has gotten you guys to not do vibrato properly, is you're not doing it things right in the right hand. That's a huge thing that a lot of people don't understand or haven't even thought about. So if I'm transitioning the bow properly here, then I can really start to work on the vibrato and still keep the hand relaxed. Like that. And eventually what you can do is do 8 per bow. And what I emphasize when you get to 8 per bow is to make sure that you're doing the last wave and not cutting it off. So not doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so this would be incorrect. We want to get that last wave in there. Raise your hand if that makes sense. Reason for that, thank you, James. Thank you, Allison, Connie. Reason for that is that we're basically practicing a bad habit of inconsistency. We're practicing that always cut that last wave out, which is not as beautiful. And it implies that you are not doing things right in the right hand. Okay, so this is ultimately what we want to do. And this is 8 waves per bow, like this. Like that. Raise your hand if that makes sense. That's how you practice vibrato. Cool. Thank you, Colin. Karen, thank you. Darlene, thank you. Appreciate you guys watching, participating. Thank you, Judy. Thank you, Jeff. Cool. All right, so 8 waves per bow. And if you're not able to do any of that, that's really challenging. I would go back and watch the beginning of this lesson, as there's just something going on where you're over tensing. You're over tensing in the right hand, you're over tensing in the left hand. Somewhere you're not able to get that nice wave based on tension happening somewhere. Very good. So eventually what I would do is increase it to 16 per bow. For those of you guys that are just starting vibrato, do not do this right away. So 16 per bow would be like this. Like that. And again, make sure you get that last wave in there. Very important. And then eventually you're just doing it as fast as you can, or based on the mood of the music. You're not trying to do exactly 8, exactly 16 per bow. But the reason why we do it this way is because it helps us to work on consistency and not just kind of a random vibrato, which is what a lot of people do. Oh, and by the way, I just remembered what I forgot to mention earlier. An incorrect version of vibrato is finger vibrato, which is actually kind of just moving the finger to vibrato. Do not do this. This is bad. This hurts your intonation. This hurts your hand position. This hurts your ability to play fast. A lot of things. So a lot of people are like, hey, I got a vibrato. I'm moving the finger. That is a really bad habit. So remember, it's forearm vibrato or wrist only. Do not do finger vibrato. So 16 per bow, and then eventually just doing it as quick as you can, but continuing to do all these fundamentals that we've talked about so far. So this would be sort of, it's a fast vibrato. Like that. Raise your hand if that makes sense. Abra, thank you. Jeff, thank you. James, thank you. Cool. 30 people here. See, you guys are a good listening crowd. Awesome. Thanks, Connie. Jill, thank you. All right. So at that point, what I would start doing is practicing vibrato with scales. So when you're warming up, doing every note, quickly. By the way, I bet you guys, some of you guys might not have known this. You can actually vibrato open G, and you do that by just taking your third finger on the D string and vibratoing like you're doing a G on the D string, and actually will make your open G sound like it's being vibratoed. Okay, so here's just open G with no vibrato. Here's open G with vibrato by vibratoing the upper octave G. Raise your hand if you did not know that. That you can vibrato and open G. Yeah, I remember when that was a breakthrough for me too. All right, so I would practice like a G major scale with vibrato on every note, something like this. Fourth finger vibrato even. Like that. And notice my hand did not dip, like for the E string. Okay, that's what a lot of students do, and then all of a sudden they have to do a vibrato on a third finger on the G, and there's tension. So remember to squeeze back to do that. All right, let me see if there's any questions. Raise your hand if you have a question. Val, go ahead. It's okay, I call you Val. Sorry, maybe that's not what you're normally called. Go ahead. Are you there?
Whoops, whoops. When you are there, showing and demonstrating what you just did, your left hand disappears off the screen. Could you move over just about 4 inches? Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. Raise your hand if you want me to demonstrate that again with a better video. Thank you. Anybody else? Jill, okay. Yeah, looks like enough people. Absolutely. I will, this better?
Yes.
So here we go. Like that. So yeah, practicing the vibrato with scale is really good. You could do it with arpeggios. You could do it. Actually, for those of you guys that are a little bit more advanced, I recommend warming up with thirds. And big reason why thirds are really good to warm up with vibrato is because what it does is it actually has you jump from thirds are basically open G 2 1 3 2 4 3 1. So it really makes sure that you're doing this to find those combinations and not dipping. Raise your hand if that makes sense. So thirds are very good. So this would be playing third. That's my knuckle height and how I'm not dipping. Like that. So you could do vibrato with that. So it'd be basically be. And that will be very challenging for you guys, especially if you are doing fourth finger with that. So depending on where you're at level-wise, that would be extremely hard. You might not be able to do that even close. That would be somebody maybe that's been playing 5 to 10 years or longer. So raise your hand if that makes sense. And then, yeah, as far as like being, thank you. As far as actually being musical with your vibrato, I recommend starting off with trying to vibrato half notes or longer notes in a phrase. Ultimately, ideally, it's best to do it as much as possible, even on quarter notes and even eighth notes eventually. But I would start off, if you're just kind of new to vibrato and maybe haven't learned a lot of the fundamentals, do it just on half notes or longer. So for example, if I play Token Farewell, How many of you guys raise your hand if you like a Chopin farewell? Nice piece, fiddle and violin-ish. Okay, so I'm gonna vibrato the longer notes in a Chopin farewell. Like that. And I don't know if you guys notice that a lot of times what I'm doing is I'm starting a note and then I'm doing the vibrato after I start it. That's actually a musical part of vibrato. Is not just doing it rapidly right off the start, but starting it a little bit later. So, for example, if you listen to singers, raise your hand if you got sing. You got singers? Like to sing? Connie? Lisa? Cool. Judy? Okay, so when you're singing, sure you can just vibrato every note like an opera singer, right? You can just right away. But there's something to interpretation and musicality of how you kind of start it and work into it. That's one thing. You don't want to sort of do that as much on the back end. If you don't do it on the back end, it kind of implies more that you just are not doing it right. But in the front end of it, it's kind of an interpretation thing. So, based on the mood, I'm kind of going a little bit farther, more advanced now with vibrato. But it's basically it's a varying sort of element. It's not just about doing it the same way. It's about feeling the emotion of how you're trying to express the vibrato. So, for example, let's just take the same song. If I can do the vibrato in different ways based on the mood of what I'm trying to interpret. So here's me kind of doing more of a kind of a soulful vibrato where I'm really trying to just like squeeze, the body out of the note and just sing each note. So it would be. Okay, hear that compared to. You guys tell the difference? Raise your hand if you could tell the difference. Yes? Cool. So it basically was me varying my vibrato, which is kind of more advanced concept. I would say that's 5+ years experience, 10 years even. Don't be doing that when you're first starting and learning vibrato, the fundamentals and the basics. Don't try to vary your vibrato. It's more once you have it, once you get it, you kind of just can take your playing to the next level. If you're playing if you're auditioning or you're playing in church or you're playing, in a symphony or you're a soloist, the way that you express your vibrato, is important. It shouldn't just be the same way every time. You're going to hear Joshua Bell do it differently than Itzhak Perlman and different violin players. So if you feel like you're kind of at that level where your vibrato is good, this is sort of how to take it to the next level. So, very good. Let me take a couple questions and then we'll call it a night. Hope you guys have gotten some good tips. Feel free to post in the chat box if you've enjoyed the class, if you like the vibrato tips, like it's helping, anything that you'd like to say, and we'd love to hear from you. So just to also tell you guys, I'm doing these daily classes at 7 o'clock, doing different topics every day, kind of just based on me varying the topics and doing different things. So if you're interested in continuing to improve, you can plan on these classes at 7 o'clock each evening. And if you guys signed up for this class, which you did, those of you guys that are here, then you'll get a notification to get into the classes. And if you don't make it, if you can't watch it, you can always watch the replay on my Facebook group page. So let me post a link to that. Oh, Connie, I think I can still hear you. There we go. So yeah, it's let's see, I'll get the link for the group page, and you guys can join that if some of you guys are here that are not. Raise your hand if you're a part of the chat community page. Or a few of you guys. Cool. Love to have you. So yeah, if you join this, you'll be able to see the replays to these classes. So if you can't make it one day, you can just check in to see what the topic was, and watch it if it's something that you want to improve on. And yeah, I encourage student participation through these. You guys were a little bit on the shy side tonight, but eventually I'm sure you guys will get more comfortable. And really, I just want to do whatever is helpful for you guys and is going to improve your playing, and do whatever is going to inspire you guys. So if that's just teaching, that's fine with me. So I think it's kind of cool to hear from others as well. So let me go ahead and I could take some questions. Let me just hear from any of you guys that have a question or just want to say hello, or let me know what you thought of the class. I'll call on you guys now if you have your hands raised. All right, Joanne, go ahead.
Okay, I just want to say, Mike, it's great to have you back. I find these classes are very informative, and I feel I can get back into it again now that you're back. And maybe we can work on some bowing also. To maybe some practice things we can do with the bow to try and not create the bounce, keep a smooth bow. So that's what I'd like to work on too. But very informative tonight, and thank you very much for coming back into our lives.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure. Yeah, I think tomorrow I'll actually do some tips on bowing. And yeah, a lot of people are struggling with the bow bounce, and a lot of that just has to do with tension in the right hand. So I think tomorrow I'm actually going to talk about some bow hand tips. So make sure you guys are doing things properly with holding the bow, as that can be a huge thing with vibrato and overall tone. Yeah, if you want to come back tomorrow, Joanne, we'd love to have you. We'll definitely help you out with that.
7 o'clock's great. 7 o'clock's a good time for me. So yeah, I'll be back tomorrow.
Sounds good. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you again.
You're welcome. Honey, go ahead.
Michael, did you call me? I couldn't understand.
I did.
Okay, good. I just want to thank you. I'm so new to this, and I'm still trying to learn how to find the places on my computer that I can ask questions. But thank you very much. I certainly did get some good hints, and I can't wait for us to get off, and I'm going to run get my violin, and I can't wait to practice. So thank you and good night.
Thank you. That is like the best thing I can hear, is that you're inspired in some way. Sounds like for you, it's to practice tonight, and hopefully for a lot of you guys also watching, maybe you're inspired to grab your instrument still tonight. Raise your hand if that's the case, if you're going to practice tonight and maybe do something on the instrument. Raise your hands. Joanne, Valerie, awesome. Look at that. You're not alone, Connie.
Good.
Very cool. Great. Do you have any other questions?
Oh, I think that's it for tonight.
All right. Well, go grab your instrument. Appreciate you being here. Maybe we'll see you in a future webinar.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Judy, go ahead. Judy, are you there? I have you unmuted if you want to just talk. You might be trying to unmute yourself, maybe. Nope. Okay. No problem. Randy, how you doing?
Doing fine, Michael. My question is about accessories like shoulder rests. Do you prefer one? Do you prefer to offer or suggest one particular one? I'm kind of in between looking at a cone and Bon Musica, and want to know your opinion about the two, if you know them.
Absolutely. Yeah, you actually have two of my top 4 or 5 that I would recommend. I find the coons to be really comfortable and efficient. And the Bomb Musicas are also good. They're a little bit more expensive, so I like the Coons for pricing and comfort. And yeah, they work really well. They snap on the instrument nicely, and ultimately, what they do best is help you hold the instrument really well. So yeah, I always recommend the Coons to students. I think that's the best on the market for the price and for what it does. Great question. Any others or follow-ups to that?
Hi, Michael.
Hey, Paul, how you doing?
I'm okay. Yeah, I'm over here in Central Time Zone, and I was breezing through my emails today, and I saw 7 p.m. and I'm like, all right, I'm here, and I just realized, yeah, you're not in Central Time Zone. I should have known that by now. But
No, it's
sorry
okay.
I missed it. Hopefully I can watch it on video later.
I will be posting it on the Facebook page, and yeah, you guys can plan on this time every day for the ongoing future. As far as 7 o'clock Eastern time. So yeah, hopefully this can kind of get you guys into a rhythm, know what's happening and how to get on and such. So sorry about that, Paul. I'm sure you'll get into the rhythm.
That's a purely Paul fault. I should have remembered that from last year. But hey, thanks for doing what you're doing. It's greatly appreciated, bringing everybody back together again.
I find community to be such a powerful thing, and it's been just life-changing for me just to be a part of the group, the Facebook group that's been meeting. And a lot of you guys have kind of seen and some of my posts and kind of things that I've been going through this past year with my divorce, and it's definitely been a rough road, but just having you guys encourage me and kind of help me to get back on track of what I love to do, which is teaching. And I really appreciate you guys individually. If I could, I'd give you a hug, because so many of you have talked to me either through private messaging or through the comment sections, and I appreciate everything. I've been loving it, just talking to you guys, and it's keeping me on track. And it's been rough, and for any of you guys out there that are experiencing anything challenging, it's been a tough time for me. But I encourage you guys to get involved in the community, because so many great people that are in the chat community pages, the adult learners pages, and just participate and just be a part of it and play your violins. I think if you do all those things, you'll start to feel better, and definitely been helpful for me. So thanks, Paul, for coming back into the community. It's been a pleasure seeing some of your posts and stuff like that.
Sure thing. It's been timely. So it's time to get back to it.
We both sort of took some time off there. But hey, it's all about coming back to it. Hey, I see Gary Gibson's here too. How you doing, Gary? Are you able to get on video or audio? Say hello. Gary's one of my past followers. I have not seen him in the classes yet, so it looks like he decided to come on board tonight. How you doing, Gary?
Hey, I'm doing great. Can you hear me all right?
Sure can. How you doing, my friend?
Just fine. For some reason, it wouldn't connect correct. I've been actually listening for about 30 minutes, but it's just now saying that I'm here. I wasn't getting all the features. I don't know, but I am now, so.
Oh, yeah. Actually, it was because if you come in, I have to change you over to a panelist to kind of get the features. So you came in a little bit later, so I had to manage you later on.
Oh,
I just did that.
Okay. That's cool.
Hey, Mike, it actually has that you have our video all for everyone disabled. It won't let us turn the video on. Yeah.
That would explain a lot, that nobody's come on video. Like, you gotta love technology and you gotta not like technology sometimes. I didn't intentionally do that, so I don't know if it's something to do. It's probably actually has something to do with the settings in my Zoom area, because this was a new class. So being that we're getting towards the end, I will just right after this, I will manage that and make sure that you guys can get on video next time. Sorry about that if you guys wanted to. So yeah.
It's all a learning process.
What's that?
It's all a learning process.
Sure is. But yeah, I think that will be working hopefully next time. So yeah, Gary, how's it going? How's life?
Oh, pretty good. Holding my own.
Cool.
And been playing the violin, but not in a very disciplinary manner, just for the sheer fun of it. So I hope I haven't developed too many bad habits as I kind of get back into it. and hopefully get some good out of these seminars, and hopefully some one-on-one sometime. When get past tax season, then I can join your new website and start enjoying the benefits from all of that again.
Awesome. Yeah, I love seeing that you're on the group page. Saw you joining that earlier today, so that was cool. And yeah, kind of back at it again, starting to teach again, and it's been great. So.
Yeah, I've had a lot of fun. So.
That's great. Yeah, so we're doing these at 7 o'clock. Maybe we'll see you again here soon.
Yeah, that's 6 o'clock my time. I usually get home about 6:15 and eat supper. If I'll try to join as soon as I can. And so.
Sounds great. Thanks for coming on, and yeah, we'll see you hopefully soon.
Thank you.
Very welcome. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Judy, go ahead. Try again. I think that's you, Judy. Go ahead and speak. Are you there? Hello? I think you're trying to get on, but just having some trouble. No problem. Anybody else? Connie, I see your hand raised. Go ahead. There we go.
Okay, I just unmuted it. I'm still learning. No, I think I don't have any other questions. I'm just listening to the input from others. It's great to get that feedback from them and what they're experiencing, and to hear from them in other areas of the country. I really feel like I've joined a good community.
Well, you feel that way. I definitely know you have, and eventually people up on video. Yesterday and the day before, we had lots of that. So actually by the end of yesterday's class, I think almost everybody popped on, felt comfortable. So yeah, it's fun to see everybody and kind of, get to know people. So that's a huge part, I think, of this concept as well.
Yeah, it'll be good to be able to see everyone's faces. For some reason, as I was flipping through now, I can actually see the others who are on board. So
Okay.
that's a nice feature. And but my screen, everything does look a little bit different than it did yesterday. So I think maybe since maybe the video wasn't turned on for you. So.
Oh, okay. So you're able to see just me, and then everybody else is just like a photo or whatever?
That's right. Just the black and white image. That's it.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I'm actually going into the back end of the webinars class here. See if I can just maybe change a setting or something. That's probably what it is, I'm guessing. Let's see if this works. There we go. That's the reason. So it's there's a setting for the panelists to be on video. So let me turn that on. Gotta love technology.
Oh yeah, don't you love it?
There we go. That might have changed it, or it is gonna work for next time. One of the two. But I definitely just saw that was a problem there. So are you guys able to change it over now?
No.
Not yet.
No, maybe a little slow.
Yeah. Yep, I did see it though, so I'm positive that was what it was. So tomorrow will be good.
Yeah, I think we'd have to get out of it and come back in.
Yeah, it says you've disabled it still.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, no problem. So yeah, I will post this video on the Shack Facebook page, so you guys can at least get a lot of the instructional part of today's class if you missed it. And yeah, we'll plan on seeing you guys tomorrow at 7. Feel free to message us on Facebook or comment and interact with us. Definitely so far, we're up to about 105 people that are following that page, and everybody's super active, and we're sending out prayers for people and just trying to make it be a really great experience. And I think the more we just stick together, the more powerful things can be with us practicing and helping others and et cetera. So I encourage you guys to go visit and be a part of that as well if you haven't yet. Hope you guys have a great night. Hope you guys got a lot out of the class.
I can figure out.
Bye, Michael.
Good night.
Thank you.
Bye, bye.
Good night, Michael.
Thank you all. You guys are the best. And I'm sure we'll see a lot of you guys soon.
Okay.
Practice your violins.
Tomorrow.
Practice, practice, practice.
See you, Mike.
Bye, guys.
See ya.